Look at you. Go take a look in the mirror. Look at yourself. You bag of bones, you shriveling ball sack of skin. It's all hanging everywhere. Because South Park has been around for almost 30 years. 28 seasons. Can you believe that? Can you believe in your wildest dreams that South Park would go on for this long? I mean, I typically like South Park. I definitely prefer it over a lot of other adult animated shows. I feel like they produce a lot of bangers and good social commentary, unlike a certain other show in its modern era. Family Guy! Yeah, when I watch Family Guy, I feel like I'm shoving an eggplant up my urethra. It's just not a very good time because it's just cut away, cut away, cut away. But when I'm watching South Park, you know, they stick to a linear plot, they got some good jokes in there, and they usually know what they want to do when they're not focusing an entire season on just one specific character or one specific aspect. They usually produce really good stuff. But with 28 seasons, they're bound to produce some shitters here and there. You know, a toddler pissing his bed, an old man falling down some stairs. There's just stuff that isn't going to hit every single time. I'm going to be looking at those episodes today. I recently asked you all what you think some of the worst episodes of South Park are, and I have a good selection here that I'm going to be rewatching and watching for the first time to see, are they actually that bad? And if you like content just like this, please make sure to like and subscribe. I upload almost every single day and you don't want to miss it. And if you want a place where you can talk about your favorite shows, movies, games, all that good stuff, my Discord will be in the description. Now let's finally take a look at the worst of South Park. The first episode I took a look at was Mr. Garrison's fancy new vagina. Wow, what a name. And I can only picture it because you know there were certain kids that would just sit there, just popcorn in hand, waiting for the brand new South Park episode. They're only like 8 years old. They're fresh off a Modern Warfare 2 lobby. They've been listening to slurs all day, and they're just sitting there like, oh boy, I just can't wait for Cartman to get all anti-Semitic at Kyle. I just can't wait. And then they get to the opening of this episode, which is just Mr. Garrison willy-nilly deciding that he wants to change his gender. Like, there is inherently nothing funny about somebody getting a gender reassignment surgery, right? There's nothing funny about that. But then you have Mr. Garrison wanting it, just willy-nilly, just flipping of a dime, just deciding, I want to be a woman! And then just being the most over-exaggerated thing ever, which is why I think some people dislike this episode, because it's extremely offensive to the trans community. But at the same time, Mr. Garrison is the farthest thing from how a normal person who was going through something like that would actually act, and I feel like that's where the comedy is truly found within this episode. Plus, you also have other transitioning surgeries that should never be a thing that are very odd that I'll get to later. So I feel like although it is a negative social commentary, it takes it so unbelievably far that it's just not believable, which is what makes it funny. But I could see why some people would be offended, especially with the opening segment where Mr. Garrison is getting his reassignment surgery, and little Timmy, little Jimbo Timmy, 8 years old, popcorn bucket in hand, he's watching it, and he's just like, oh boy, Mr. Garrison, what's he up to today? Is that a ball sack? Is it being cut into? That's not even South Park animation, he's actually cutting into a ball sack. Yeah, they show live footage of a gender reassignment surgery. And, you know, it's disgusting. You know, going into this episode, I hadn't watched it in a long time, and I only really remembered what happened to Gerald. I didn't remember that they actually showed a gender reassignment surgery, what it physically looks like in the real world. You know, penis being taken and stuffed in places and cut, and it's just disgusting. Maybe that's why people are so turned off by this episode, is just the beginning of it, which I would perfectly understand. It is not enjoyable to watch a gender reassignment surgery, unless you're a doctor and you get off on it and you're like, yes, this is my job, this is exactly what I wanted to see in this weekly episode of South Park, because I'm busting. I don't know, there's probably someone out there who gooned to it, and that makes me a little bit sad. But either way, he gets the reassignment surgery, and then he just over-exaggerates everything to the maximum point, which just makes fun of the entire community, but it's so over-exaggerated that I do find it funny. Like, we cut to the boys and Kyle, he really wants to try out for the basketball team, but Cartman's like, whatever, Jews can't play basketball. You know, just being, I guess, truthful, because Kyle starts playing, he's doing his best, and he's playing with a bunch of African Americans who are much taller than him. I have to specify that because it's important to the episode. I'm not just labeling them. But his coach calls him over and he's like, Kyle, Jews can't play basketball, man, you gotta get out of here.
What do you mean?
Well, it's just that Jews can't play basketball. All right, kids, we gotta work on that shooting. Come on.
Which makes it even more funny because it's an adult man saying it instead of Cartman, which makes Cartman right. And you just feel so bad for Kyle, even when Kyle is just sitting there after, his head just on the wall, just looking defeated, and Cartman is still ripping on him, but it's just not working because, you know, he's right. Even the coach said it. Kyle can't play basketball because, you know, he's Jewish. It's just the way it is, I guess. So that leads to some interesting stuff later on. They're walking in the street and they see Miss Garrison, and Miss Garrison is like, "Hello, boys," because for some reason she has an inkling to show off her new female body parts to children, and Cartman has the most, you know, usual response you could ever imagine. "Miss Garrison has titties, guys, oh god!"
You guys, Mr. Garrison has titties.
I had a sex change operation.
Yeah, so that was pretty funny. I did enjoy that. Which gives Kyle the bright idea that he could get a transitioning surgery to become African American so that he could play basketball, which is just something so interesting. But god, do I love his conversation with the doctor where he goes in and the doctor's like, "So, do you want to be a boy or a girl? What do you want to be, Kyle? Tell me what you want to be." And he's like, "No, I want to be tall and black." And you would think the doctor would react like, "Huh, that's a little bit strange. I've never heard of such a thing."
I hate being small and Jewish. I feel like a tall black man.
Oh, you want a negroplasty?
What? Why is it a thing? Why is it a thing that can be done? It's just so odd. But yeah, he starts labeling him and how he could do it and how he could change his skin so it would produce more melatonin, I think, to make him darker. Very interesting, but Dan's even like, is it a good idea to do this? Is it a good idea? And he's like, "If you want to be tall and black." Yeah, okay, that's wild. God, it's so interesting. The rest of the Miss Garrison stuff is really odd, though. It's a lot of over-exaggeration of what it is to get that surgery, where she's not really taking it very seriously. Like, she has this whole conversation with Mr. Slave, and Mr. Slave is very gay, and it's completely up to him if he would want to be with somebody who is now considered to be a woman, which he doesn't because he likes sucking on that cock, you know, using up that dick. He's just a fan of it, and now Miss Garrison doesn't have one, so what is left for him? And Miss Garrison just immediately starts calling him slurs, which odd because he used to be gay, so now he's calling Mr. Slave slurs, which is so odd. So yeah, that's interesting to say the least. It's again that over exaggeration of what her character now is that is just taken to great lengths, to say the least. Great lengths. So now we cut to Gerald, who is dealing with the fact that Kyle wants to change. He gets very upset about this, so he goes to the doctor's office, and this is just by far just the funniest part of the episode, because it's taking the whole idea of the episode being about transitioning and just taking it to the max point that you possibly can, because he gets there, he's all angry, and he's like, Doctor, I don't like the way you're talking to my son. I don't like it at all. I don't think you should be teaching him this stuff." And then he's like, "What about that shirt that you're wearing? You like dolphins, Gerald? Mr. Baroflowski, do you like dolphins?" And he's like, "Yeah, I like dolphins." And then we cue a song. "If I could swim with the dolphins." Yeah, Gerald wants to be a dolphin. So he's gonna make him a dolphin. God, it's so weird. We then cut back to Mrs. Garrison, and she's at a bar with a bunch of ladies trying to have a good time. She flashes her bazungas, you know, really just enjoying her womanhood, and it's just exaggerated even more because she goes up to every single woman and she's like, "Hey girls, we're all connected, we're all together," and it's playing on the joke that Miss Garrison, I guess, is the most unbelievable woman you could ever imagine. Because that's the entire joke, because even she doesn't take it very seriously, and you could tell that by the next scene in which she's like hugging women and she's like, "Oh god, I can't wait to get my period, oh yeah." And she hasn't had it yet, so one of the girls points out the obvious fact, you know, if you haven't had your period, you might be pregnant, and then he has the most unreasonable reaction to that. I couldn't imagine if, you know, somebody, I overheard this conversation, I was at the bar, I'm just taking a sip of a pint, just like, God, what a nice night. And then behind me I hear, "Oh boy, I can't wait to go get an abortion. Ooh, I got to scramble my insides. Ooh, I must go in there."
I'm pregnant, everybody! Oh boy, now I can have an abortion!
Yeah, it's just not something you would ever imagine to hear. And again, I understand that it might be offensive to some people, but you could clearly tell how satirical it is, because why would anybody be excited for something like that? It's just a little bit odd. We then cut to Gerald, and it always makes me laugh because he looks so fucking stupid. He comes in and he's like, "Look, Ike, look at your daddy." And he's a dolphin. Excuse me, he's a dolphin.
That doctor is a miracle worker, Sheila. I'm the happiest I've ever been. Look, Ike, your daddy's a dolphin.
He's got bruises on his eyes, he's got a dorsal fin, and he's a dolphin, and it looks so funny, man. It's so unbelievably comical. I can't believe they had this idea. I would love to sit in the boardroom meeting, Matt and Trey probably just dropping just gallons of LSD. Guys, I really want to make Gerald a dolphin. I want to make him a dolphin so bad. We're talking about the social commentary of transitioning from man to woman. You know, we gotta make this good. Let's have Gerald become a dolphin. Yeah, that was probably how it went. It was probably very, very interesting. But either way, I'm so glad they did it because it's so unbelievably funny to see him like this. They approved Kyle's surgery, which is inherently so wrong to see because you just have Butters walking up.
What? It's Kyle! He's a Negro!
Wow, I can't believe it.
What? And then you go over and see him and it just, I don't know, he looks like an Eldritch horror because obviously he wasn't born that way. He's not supposed to look like that. And it just looks so wrong, man. It really does. You shouldn't want this in life. And is it like technically blackface if you change your white to... I don't know. Is Kyle racist for this? Or is it a good thing because he wants to... I don't know. Either way, it's really messed up. It looks wrong. And Kyle is now that. So that's cool. And Gerald's very proud of him. He's following him around with his dolphinness, which is, again, is very odd. Miss Garrison goes into the abortion clinic and is just like, "Oh yeah, please clean it out of me. Please clean it out of me. Scramble my innards." And the doctor tells Miss Garrison that she can't get pregnant. And so now Miss Garrison no longer wants the gender reassignment surgery. She wants her balls and penis back. So she sprints on after them, trying to get it back to the best of her ability. But now there's the worry because Kyle, he had to get Miss Garrison's balls implanted into his knees so that he could grow larger. Yeah, that was a part of it. And it turns out Gerald's dorsal fin is his schlong. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. So they have to stop him before he jumps in the basketball game or else his knees are going to explode. And I don't know, a lot of these scenes with the buildup of it with all the dolphin jokes for Gerald are really funny, where he's looking for seating and do you guys have seating for dolphins? Or he's trying to get to Kyle as fast as possible, trying to just get it, bulldoze his way into the entrance or whatever. I don't really remember. And he's like, "I'm a lawyer and I'm a dolphin. I'm a lawfin." Now that's a pun I could get behind right there. That's a beauty, to say the least. So he gets in there and, you know, we get this ultimate dolphin attack where he like nosedives up and like hits people out of the way trying to stop Kyle, and Kyle jumps anyway. And it's honestly a gruesome scene. I'll debate whether or not I want to show it here, but his knees pop, and I don't know. If you want to see it, you could just go watch the episode. I don't think I'm going to show it. I don't know. Who knows? Editing Kaulos might think differently when I'm editing this later. Who knows? But either way, that was pretty wild. And then I still think the ending is unbelievably funny, where Gerald has to talk to the doctor, and he's like, "I'm not a dolphin. What are you?" Like he's just freaking out because he's not a dolphin. Either way. I can definitely see why people would hate this episode, especially because of the beginning, because they show such a gruesome surgery that is something that a lot of people would not want to be subjected to and could probably scar a lot of people just from seeing it. So going into this episode, I don't think anybody was expecting that. And then there is a lot of offensive material throughout the entire episode that would probably offend a lot of different groups of people. But just the way I see it, everything is so unbelievably over-exaggerated to the point that nobody would actually be doing that, at least I don't think so, that it does become funny. I think they reach the ultimate point of it being funny. It's like that episode where I think they were trying to say shit or fuck so many unbelievable times that it lost all meaning. Everything we see here is kind of the same concept. They go the extra mile to showcase that nobody would ever do something like this, that it makes it funny. Gerald literally becomes a dolphin. That may be another reason people don't like this episode, because he's a literal eldritch horror, a cryptid, something that you would find underneath your bed, which would cause you to just, I don't know, go jump off a bridge. I don't know, it's something that you wouldn't want to see. But either way, I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. This was by far the most requested episode for me to take a look at in terms of bad South Park episodes, but I like it. Other than the beginning, I think it's a very solid episode that has really good social commentary that could even work as an episode today if they wanted to. So if I was to rate this episode 1 to 10, I would give it a solid 8 out of 10. By no means is it my favorite episode of South Park. It doesn't even cross probably the top 100, but I still think it's a very good episode. The next episode I'm going to be taking a look at is Human Centipad, and genuinely, if Kyle was a living figure, if he could see what was going on, the second he would have seen that the movie The Human Centipede was coming out, he would have just known, oh no bro, Matt and Trey are going to put me in one of those things. I'm going to be sewed to an Asian man and I'm going to be eating poop. Oh no bro. That's what Kyle would say if he also sounded like Muscle Man. That's definitely what would happen. And this entire plot of this episode is disgusting. There are some moments where I genuinely just went, ooh, but there are some moments that are really funny. This episode was suggested a lot, mainly for the human centipede moments, but honestly, it's pretty funny. I really like the beginning of the episode where Cartman is like, whatever, you're poor, you don't have an iPad, whatever, just making fun of anybody who doesn't have an iPad, and then Craig walks up to him and he's like, everyone's saying that your iPad's fake, dude. They just say you taped a piece of glass to it. I don't think it's real. Cartman, you know, he's very defensive about this, but he goes home and he tells his mom that he needs to go and get an iPad immediately, right now, or he's going to tweak out, he's going to lose his mind, he's going to start gooning everywhere. So his mom takes him to Best Buy, and they can't afford an iPad, but his mom's like, what about the Toshiba Handybook, Eric? What about a Toshiba Handybook?
You want to fuck your son so bad? Go on, Mom. Fuck me. Fuck me.
And we get one of the funniest scenes in all of South Park right here. Genuinely just one of my favorite moments of all time, where Eric, you know, he's just asking for it at this point, to where he's like, hey, what, you a Toshiba Handybook? No, Mom. I like to be wined and dined before I'm fucked. You gonna want me to have that Toshiba Handybook? Why don't you just turn me around and fuck me? Trying to make his mom look like a child molester in Best Buy. It's situations like this where Eric is genuinely just asking for it. Just pick him up and just, Eric, no more. He's just asking for eternal suffering in the fiery depths of hell. This little shit. And then they leave and he's in the car and he's like, but Mom, I want Toshiba Handybook, please. And he's like begging and crying and pleading, and his mom's like, no, Eric, you get nothing of the sort. And then he goes right back to it. Well, you better take me to dinner because I like to be wined and dined before I'm fucked.
No! Well, then could we at least pull up here and get some dinner? Because I like to be wined and dined after I've been fucked.
Yeah, it's just classic Eric Cartman, and it works so unbelievably well. But honestly, if I had a kid like Eric, there would just be no holding back. There'd be no remorse. I mean, is there remorse needed for a kid who grinded up another kid's parents and fed it to him? I think everybody in society would be perfectly fine if I just grabbed Eric by the skull and threw him into a wall, bathed him in a bat of fried chicken, and just threw him to the whales, threw him to the killer whales. That would be exquisite and divine. I want to feed Eric. I want to feed him to the masses. Oh, I want to give him to the Pope. I want to watch the Pope eat Eric Carbon. That sounds delectable, to say the least. Either way, that was really funny scenes. I love all of that. And then we cut to what's going on with Kyle, and apparently he has agreed to the Apple terms and conditions without reading it. Who doesn't read the terms and conditions? What the fuck is wrong with you? You have serious mental and physical problems if you don't read the terms and conditions. They're right there. Like, how could you agree to something without reading the terms and conditions? Just doesn't make any sense. So Kyle agrees to this and he starts getting kidnapped, and I absolutely adore this scene where they break into Kyle's house and Kyle's like is begging for help from his father, and they just tase Gerald.
Now let him go.
Dad! You tasered my dad!
Honestly, because I kind of hate Gerald, mainly because of that season where he becomes a troll and is a internet troll, and it was all about Gerald for a while. Just kind of over Gerald. Not really about Gerald very much. There's a lot of Gerald here. But watching him get tased was really fun, and Kyle gets taken, kidnapped, thrown into a cell, and gets, you know, turned into a human centipad. Yeah. Steve Jobs is here, and he's like, hello, God, do I just have the brightest and most brilliant ideas ever? I've raised Apple stock nearly 100% in my next new invention. I'm gonna sew 3 people together and make it so that they could also email and text. Which, how is this beneficial, like, realistically? Like, who would want to buy that? I mean, besides, like, really rich people? Like, what would you do with it? Like, would you ride them around? Like, ride around on your human centipede? Like, yeah, here is some cuttlefish. Ooh, eat up, my little centipede. Eat up. It's just a very odd concept, to say the least, but I guess that's South Park for you. It really is. So yeah, they're struggling, and the entire joke is that they won't read anything, and he can't get human centipede to read because Kyle just signs waivers right away. And, you know, a lot of it is really disgusting, especially when, you know, he's just like, oh no, Kyle, it's so big. And then we just watch him take a big old dumpy in Kyle's mouth, and then Kyle also takes a dumpy wumpy woo, to say the least. And it's just something that you don't really want to see, but there are some funny scenes out of it, like when he gives the man in front a burrito, and he's like, oh, Kyle, it's bean and cheese. I cannot resist.
Sorry, Kyle. I tried to resist, but burrito is too delicious.
Hold on, Kyle. Yeah, it's just something that you're never ready for. You're never ready for it. At the same time, Eric is going on Dr. Phil, explaining to the world how his mom uses him up like a good old-fashioned peanut on the holidays, getting crushed by the nutcracker, to say the least. Yeah, he's just getting used up by his mother. She's just using him like a dirty boy that he is. Which is obviously not true, but Carbon's getting a lot out of this. I mean, he got to go on Dr. Phil, everybody believes him, so good for him. There's also another B-plot with Gerald, Stan, and maybe Kenny. I don't remember if Kenny's there, he doesn't say a lot. They're trying to figure out how to get Kyle back, and they're with the geniuses, which I didn't think was that funny. It's just a bunch of, like, weird things where they're like, oh, yeah, we know everything, oh god, yes, let us merge our minds into one, and then the lasers are like going off everywhere, and they like figure out everything. And it's important to the plot because they do eventually get Kyle back because of this, because Gerald signs up for Apple. But overall, it was just like the dullest parts of the episode, at least to me. We come back to Kyle, and it's disgusting, but it's probably my favorite scene of the episode, where he's just like, oh, Kyle, should I have cuttlefish or vanilla paste? Which he should obviously eat the vanilla paste if Kyle wants a yummy, you know, backwards meal, to say the least. But he's like, oh, you said cuttlefish, and so he eats the cuttlefish, and shits in Kyle's mouth.
Cuttlefish and asparagus? Very well, I will eat the cuttlefish.
Wonderful, and it's absolutely disgusting. It doesn't get better the entire time, but it's the build-up, I guess, like when he's eating the burrito or he goes for the cuttlefish. It's just, oh man, it's dangerous, it's spooky. It is not gibbling my giblets very well, to say the least. So, the episode continues, and Steve Jobs eventually unveils Human Centipad. He gives it to Eric, and Eric is all like, oh man, it does email, it does text, and it shits in Kyle's mouth. Oh, hell yeah, which always gets a laugh out of me. And then Gerald agrees to Sign up for Apple, which means everything that Kyle agrees to has to go through Gerald first, so Kyle is free, and that's pretty much the end of the episode. The only reason I could genuinely see people hating this episode is because of the gross out human centipad scenes, but if you could look past that and see the beauty in Eric getting sexually assaulted by his mother, theoretically, then there's some funny moments in it. It could definitely get a laugh out of me. There's some good parts, there's some bad parts. It does have its gross shock out humor, but at least, you know, compared to a lot of shock humor in other shows that where they typically just do it for no reason, here it completely relates to what's going on in the episode. It's happening for a reason, it's progressing the episode, which I do admire. So if I was to rate this episode 1 to 10, I would probably give it a 6 out of 10. You know, there were some dull moments, especially all the stuff with Gerald and the brain geniuses guys. Just wasn't a real fan of that, but everything that was going on with Eric was just chef's kiss, everything I could possibly need. So overall, 6 out of 10, that's not bad. It's not amazing, but it's decent. The final episode I'm going to be taking a look at is Stanley's Cup, and when I think about the movie The Mighty Ducks, I think about a good, happy ending, you know, all that good stuff, classical underdog victory, they pulled it off, let's go hockey, yeah baby! It's a pretty good movie with a good happy ending. Here, it does the exact opposite. I don't know what Matt and Trey were going for. The only feeling that I could really assume that they wanted the audience to have while watching this was probably to feel like, I don't know, Marie Antoinette, when she was like, let them eat cake, and then everybody during the French Revolution just rushed at her and put her on the guillotine, and she just got her head chopped off as she was just gluttonously eating a bunch of cake, just like, oh god, I'm going to die. That's the only way I could really feel while watching this. Obviously, the most relatable feeling anybody could have. So this episode starts off with Stan getting his bike towed, which leads to him having to become coach of a pee-wee hockey team. And he gets there and he's immediately like, okay guys, let's hockey it up. We could hockey that puck and we could win. Go team. All right, you're going to be goalie. And then he's like, I can't play goalie. I have cancer.
Got asthma or something?
No, he has cancer.
What?
Nelson has leukemia.
And Stan is just like, oh. And this kid has a very sad life where every other sentence has to end in, can you take away my cancer, coach? Please take away my cancer. I need it gone. And it's just really sad the entire time, and there's not really a joke to follow it up. The joke is that it's so unbelievably sad, but it's just like somebody punching you in the face with an onion. You're not gonna help but to cry. It's sad, man. It's just unfortunate what this kid is going through, and there's some scenes that do work with Stan going home, telling Randy about it, and then Randy having a nightmare about Stan missing a puck and freaking out, going like, just tweaking and freaking out, which I thought was pretty funny and enjoyable, but everything else is just sad, man. Just sad. His parents come to watch Stan coach the game, and they're just like, Stan, coach, you have to go see him. You're his coach, because the kid is now in the hospital, so he goes to see him, and he's just like, hey, how you doing, champ? How you doing, kid? And he's like, oh, I'm not good. I have cancer. I'm 5. I'm only dying. Why am I dying? Please make it go away. Please make it go away.
How come I have to die now?
Ugh.
I mean, how come I don't get to grow up?
So, yeah, that's sad. And then the kid just asked for them to win. That's his only request. And then we get this entire sequence of them playing a pee-wee hockey game. And because they're pee-wee, they don't do anything, so they end up tying. And they go back to the hospital. And it's a very dark joke, which I guess it's a little bit funny, where they're like, oh, the only thing that could have saved him was the victory. It's almost like his cancer, it's not responding because it was tied.
Isn't worse, but he isn't getting better. It's almost as if his cancer were tied.
Tied the game. Knee slapper right there, baby. Ooh, that's some good ass comedy. That's all I need in my life. It's still very sad. So then they get the opportunity to go against Denver East. And living in Colorado, I actually am very fond of the fact that we have all these names and teams that I have played before. Oh god, the fond memories of sporting. Oh, whoa, woo-wee. So they have this opportunity to play against Denver East, so they're getting hyped about that. They get Ike on the team, they go out to eat, and the entire team is just so against playing against Denver East. And I don't know, it's kind of like a backhanded joke. I wonder when this episode released. I didn't look at that before I started watching. But this one kid is like, you don't go against Denver East, and Stan's like, oh, come on, they can't be that bad. And the kid's like, that's what Steve Irwin said about stingrays, and look at him. What? Steve Irwin, why are you bringing him up, kid? How do you even know who he is? But either way, that was a very dark joke that I kind of did enjoy. So then we cut to the game with Denver East, and Denver East doesn't show up. So the Colorado Avalanche is all like, you know what, kids, go in for us. And then we just get to watch children be mauled and beaten for a good solid 3 minutes as a grown-up, professional hockey team just lays waste to these peewee guys. And, it's so over the top that it is kind of funny, especially when Queen kicks in, we are the champions, and one of the kids is down on the floor covered in blood, and he's like, I hate you, coach. I hate you so much. That got a little chuckle out of me.
I hate you, coach. I hate you.
And then the kid with cancer, he just fucking dies. He's just like, oh, no hope, and then he just dies. Bro, it's just unbelievably sad, and it is really hard to watch. I like dark humor when it's used right, so I did laugh a decent amount at this episode, but still, this is probably one of the worst episodes of South Park I have ever seen. There's just... Yeah, I understand what they were going for. They were just trying to do a Mighty Ducks parody that's just was hopeless and so over the top with what they were trying to tell with the kid dying of a terminal illness, going up against an adult professional hockey team, all of that stuff just exaggerated to the max. But it doesn't take away that I did actually feel bad for this kid, and it kind of ruined my viewing experience a little bit. So if I was to rate this episode 1 to 10, I would give it a 4 out of 10. Yes, I did laugh at a little bit of it, but overall, I would never want to watch this again. It's just sad for the sake of being sad. Honestly, these episodes weren't that bad, which I think just speaks volumes to the quality that South Park usually has. I know they've had some dull seasons recently, but I think that's just because people crave for a return to the old where they would focus on just what the kids are doing, or maybe Randy has something going on that doesn't relate to Tiggerty. But I don't know. I thought these episodes were a lot of fun, and I guarantee there's some hardcore fans out there that could point out other episodes that are considered to be much worse. If this video does get 2,000 likes, I will be sure to make another South Park video very soon, because I would love to check out some more awful South Park episodes or really good South Park episodes if the people do demand it. But yeah, honestly, these episodes weren't as bad as I thought they were going to be. Stanley's Cup was a bit too much for me in terms of sadness, which is why I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but overall, it wasn't a bad time. It's not something that I would turn off if it was on. I wouldn't really want to ever rewatch it, but if it was on, I would just be like, oh god, what's happening? This poor child. Human Centipad was really gross, but all of the Eric stuff really made up for it. And Mr. Garrison's Fancy New Vagina, which was the episode initially going into I thought I would hate, had a lot of really good jokes. Gerald turned into a dolphin, for God's sake. It was just a very interesting and creative episode that I thought was pretty funny. So if you guys like this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. I really hope you enjoyed. Bye.